Hi, my name is Jennifer Storm, and I am the coordinator of Outreach and Advocacy with Andreozzi Foote Law Firm. I'm here today to talk with you about an issue that every single one of us faces in varying degrees, and that is mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and being in a field working with survivors of childhood sexual abuse, we know how common mental health challenges and struggles are as a result of that abuse. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the impact of mental health challenges on survivors of sexual violence, how you can normalize these conversations with your family and your loved ones, and also some remedies that really work. So first and foremost, we know victims of childhood sexual abuse are at a much greater risk for every conceivable mental health challenge there are, including post-traumatic stress disorder, substance use, disordered eating, sex addiction, trust and difficulty in relationships, depression, anxiety, hypervigilance, disassociation, and emotional struggles in terms of healing. All of these things are very common and very normal reactions to a really abnormal thing that has happened in your loved one's life or in your life. First and foremost, we need to normalize that. There's all too often a stigma associated with mental health, and we tend to shy away from having these really important conversations. But just like how sexual violence thrives in silence, so does mental health. If we're not open and talking about mental health, we're not allowing others to see themselves. We're not letting people feel heard. We must have these conversations early, frequent, often, and consistently in our society. So how do you talk with a loved one who you think might be struggling with a mental health challenge, especially if it's associated with sexual violence? Just start talking. Age-appropriate language. Using age-appropriate language is super important for young people, especially if you're starting to pepper your young child with prevention to make sure that they understand and appreciate their body and the rights that they have over their body and their own autonomy. You can have these conversations in very short little spurts as to not overwhelm the child or scare the child. So at diaper time, talk about your little baby's body and who gets to touch it and who doesn't, and how often that touch should be, the length of that touch, what's appropriate and what's not, right? Talking about going to a doctor and experiencing an exam. What is good touch? What is bad touch? What is appropriate touch? What is inappropriate touch? Giving them the language for their body parts, the accurate language. Empowering your child to know that their body and their physical space is their right, and they have a right to protect that and create boundaries around it. Talk about consent early and often. Talk to your loved ones about how important it is to get consent when hugging another person, or if somebody wants to hug you, that it's okay to say no if you're not comfortable. Helping your child understand these things will really give them the foundations moving forward. If and when they are impacted by sexual abuse or sexual violence, talking about the fact that it's okay to not be okay. Letting your child or young person know that you understand and appreciate the short and long-term mental health challenges that come with sexual abuse, and just normalizing those conversations, being open about those conversations. Now, your child or your loved one may not come to you, may not talk with you about these challenges. Oftentimes, they don't. They'll go to someone else. But they need those resources. They need to understand the language with which they're talking about. They need to be able to identify what's going on in their minds, in their spirits, and in their bodies. So giving them that language, providing them those resources, that might mean just leaving a pamphlet in their bedroom or placing a book that talks about these issues and challenges. Giving them some websites. Maybe you're texting them a few websites or texting them some chat lines. Letting them know that you know that they're struggling and that it's okay, that it's normal for them to be struggling. Once we normalize this, we really start to begin to peel back the layers of shame and guilt and fear that survivors often walk around with. Oftentimes, they just feel so isolated and so alone in their specific emotional response. And listen, every single survivor's experience is unique. and their response to that experience is just as unique as the experience. So we can't expect every single survivor to respond the exact same way. That's just not how people are built. So we provide as much terminology, as much information, as much support and resources, and then allow that person to find the path that is right for them. We have to normalize talking about these hard things, which isn't always easy with kids because, let's face it, most kids and teenagers don't want to sit down at a table and talk with you about really hard things, especially things associated with sex and intimacy and assault. Best way to engage young people and children in these tough conversations is, again, make them short, pepper them into lots of conversations, but often engage your child when they're busy doing something else. So maybe you're doing a puzzle together at the table. Maybe you're out shooting hoops. Maybe you're running with your child or taking a brisk walk with the dog. When a child or a young person's brain is focused on another task, it really enables them to tap into emotional spaces in their brain that they wouldn't otherwise feel safe or comfortable doing, right? We understand that one side of our brain deals with emotion and the other side deals with rational thought. It's easy when we're engaging the intellectual side of our brain in an activity to allow the access of those emotional spaces to be a little bit more open and have that dialogue freer. It's proven, it works. And again, make them short conversations. If you try to give your young person everything all at once, or if you try to address every single issue all at once, you're going to overwhelm them and they're going to shut down emotionally. So pepper in those conversations. Be careful when you bring it up. Certainly don't bring up any of those challenges when your child is already in a heightened state of emotional stress, right? If your child is experiencing hypervigilance or really anxious or really fearful, that is not the time to then start diving deep into the mental health challenges that their assault has created, right? They're not going to hear it, and it's just going to ramp up the emotional response that they're having. Find times when your child is calm, is open to hearing that, and again, is otherwise engaged in another activity so that they can feel a little bit more comfortable. Be a seed planter. That's one of the best pieces of advice that I can give any parent or caregiver. You're not necessarily going to be the one that is going to be able to help your child or your loved one get the help that they need, but you can plant all of those seeds, leading the path for them. When we plant seeds, that means we're providing them with resources, hotline numbers, counselors, books, movies, websites, all of those things that help educate and empower survivors with information. That's how you plant those seeds. I don't know about you, but it's really hard once somebody gives you a piece of information to wantingly forget it, to willingly forget it. It'll stay there in the back of their mind somewhere. Now, they might not take it in that moment and run with it, but as they progress in their own life, they're going to remember what you've said to them. They're going to remember how you made them feel when you said those things, and then they're going to remember the resources. And when they're ready and they have the right opportunity to come forward, they will seek those resources and hopefully find this incredible place that we call healing and recovery, which does exist for every survivor of childhood sexual abuse. There is a place beyond the pain, a place free from the immediate impacts and effects of the abuse. Finally, I want to talk about a topic that still has a lot of stigma around it, and that's medication. Sometimes the chemicals in our brain are not working properly, and that can lead to exacerbated experiences of mental health challenges in the aftermath of any type of abuse or trauma. It is okay to take medication for that. It is okay to talk with a doctor, to talk with a psychiatrist, and get on the right medication that can help you manage the symptoms that you're experiencing. Maybe that medication is going to be short-term to get you through that immediate impact of the trauma, but maybe it's going to be something that you have to be on for a long term or the rest of your life. There's no shame in that. This medication, these medications were created for these purposes. Always consult a doctor, talk with your psychiatrist, make sure that you're on the right medication, and have an open mind, because medication, just like us, is not a one-size-fits-all. You're gonna need to probably play around with different medications, different dosages, until you get to that place where you can find a place of harmony and balance. Medication can help in significant in wonderful ways and can allow survivors to access those places in their brain that can enable them to heal. There's no shame in getting help, regardless of what that help looks like. We all need help from time to time, and individuals who experience childhood sexual abuse absolutely need our attention, our support, our guidance, and our resources. So in this month of May, when we're talking so much about mental health, I hope you can carry some of these thoughts into your home and into the conversations you're having with your own family. And remember, just because May is the month we set aside to talk about this, these are things we should be talking about every day in our homes because they're impacting the majority of our society, not just survivors of sexual abuse. If you ever need any assistance, pointers, or help, Andreozzi Foote is always here. While we are a law firm that is dedicated to the civil representation of victims, we also care about the holistic well-being of our clients. So feel free to call if you have questions. Go onto our website. If you have any need for resources, we have a parent and survivor guide that we just published. It is an incredible resource that can walk you through so many of the things that we just talked about.